I want to take a side for a minute here and talk about the two primary ways I've seen organizations get this wrong. Okay, the two ways, and they actually end up yielding almost the same result in many cases, are one, not getting their hands around managing IAM roles and letting them proliferate and letting everyone in the organization add roles, or even not everyone, but lots of people, and not keeping on top of it. That's a mistake, definitely. A lot of organizations say, hey, we don't want to be that organization. So instead what we'll do, they'll make the other mistake. They'll clamp down really, really, really hard. Okay, two things happen when you clamp down really hard. One is you create a ton of friction for developers to do their jobs. Okay, and that almost always happens where, you know, whether it's a new service type or it's a new action on a resource, if there's some big grinding old school process, manual process to go, you know, beg for permission to do something new, you've slowed down your organization on cloud. And what I've often seen happen is eventually that organization, that team in the organization said, we're going to clamp down IAM. Nobody's going to have access to any of this stuff. It's crazy for them to be able to touch it at all. They can come through us. Most of those teams eventually lose that authority. And the reason they lose that authority is because they end up being a bottleneck to progress, because it's hard to get right. Okay, so there's a sweet spot in the middle. Where that sweet spot is very much dependent on your organization, your way of working, your use cases, your exposure to risk and sensitivity to risk, whether you're regulated, et cetera. But there is no silver bullet here. You really have to understand it, and you really need the right amount of flexibility and the right amount of control. Okay, so the reason things like organization SCPs exist is for you to say, we absolutely don't want anyone to be able to, I don't know, maybe it is create an IAM role. Maybe it is, you know, delete S3 buckets. Like you're going to reserve that to just a central resource. Maybe it's change topology of VPCs. But I would argue that this list should be, generally speaking, not so long, because there's other things you can do that are better.